What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we are shooting episode 2 of Rate My Tank, so make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out the links in the description. Lots of juicy information down there for you. As I said, today we're going to be shooting episode 2 of Rate My Tank. If you haven't seen episode 1, then go and check it out. What are you waiting for? It's going to run exactly the same. We're going to have 3 to 5 tanks on the screen. My pillow's fallen. Sorry about that. We're going to have 3 to 5 tanks on the screen. I'm going to narrate them and we're going to go over them and then give them a 5-star rating, or rating out of 5 stars I should say. So I really thank all of the previous entrants. I really appreciate you entering into the pilot episode or episode 1. And if you want to enter and be into episode 3, then check out the email in the description below and you can send a 2 to 3 minute video of your fancy goldfish tank, your fish, your filtration, and I will just go over it in episode 3. Now I apologise if your fish or your tank isn't shown in this episode, and hopefully it will be shown in the next one. Obviously we had quite a few entries and I can't get them all into one video. So without further ado, I'm going to get the first tank on the screen, so I will catch you in a bit. So first up, as you can see, we've got a lovely planted fancy goldfish tank. Now this tank hasn't got any substrate, it's actually a bare bottom, which a lot of hobbyists find much easier to keep clean, get rid of that waste and detritus out of the tank, and I really do like the bare bottom tanks. Now when I started, I didn't think bare bottom tanks look very nice, but I'm starting to really appreciate them now. We can see there's some lovely bamboo, we've got some anubias, lots of different plants, some java ferns, and I can see right at the back in one of those sort of cup holders there's some bucephalandra. Now if you haven't kept bus or bucephalandra before, it's a really awesome hardy small plant that's quite similar to anubias, and there are lots of different variations, varieties in this of this plant basically. And we can see there's 2 bubble filters or sponge filters on each corner, and then it looks like there is also 2 hang on back filters as well. Now I can see that there's lots of flow in the tank, although there is 11 fancies in this tank and normally the tank police would be out to get them. However, not with Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. We don't have any tank police because there is always a reason. Now you can see there's 11 fish in this tank, but they are so happy, so healthy, they are so active, and I'm sure the owner does their utmost care to keep the tank clean. Now you can of course keep 11 fancies in a smaller tank like this if you conduct the necessary maintenance and water change, and as we can see from this tank, that is definitely done. And I'm sure as the fish grow, the owner will potentially upgrade or maybe move some of the fish out. Here's a closer look at the hang on back filters. Now in the UK we don't use these as much, so it's quite interesting. I think this one has a bio wheel, I believe they call it, at the front. Quite cool. Obviously it removes the filter from the tank, and if you haven't got space for an external filter, they can be quite good as well. So that's really interesting to see a different approach, and we can also see a slightly different style hang on back filter in this shot here. It looks like it's got some filter pads, maybe they've got some carbon or some biomedia in them, so that's really interesting to see as well. I do really love this tank. I love the variation in plants, and they're going to be sucking up those nitrates right out of the water, and I just love looking at these fancies. Lovely variation, lots of different varieties, colours, and the tank overall just looks really nice. So I'm not sure if I already mentioned, but this tank was submitted by Lindsay from Canada, I believe. Hopefully I've got that right. I'm going to give you 4.3 out of 5 stars, Lindsay. Great tank. So next up, we've got another tank which was submitted by Etienne. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now, Etienne didn't actually provide a video, but he still wanted his tank to be featured onto Rate My Tank, so I've got no problem with that at all. The pictures aren't as good as the video, but we can still see clearly how the tank's laid out. And in this tank, we can see he's got a dual filter on the right hand side, one of my favorites. Hopefully he's pimped that. We will potentially find out in the rest of the pictures, maybe not. So he's also got a nice planted tank, but you can see this one is slightly different to Lindsay's, and it has got a sand substrate. Now, I find a sand substrate can be a little bit harder to maintain. It can be harder to remove the detritus and the debris, which can potentially lead up to more nitrate building up in your tank. However, we can see he's got a range of plants. It looks like some Bucephalandra growing all over that dual bioflow filter, some Cryptocorin or Cryptocorini in the bottom right, some Anubias, and I believe that might be a Nymphea red lotus lily, I believe they're called, which are really, really nice, really impressive, and I believe they are part of the dwarf lily family. So as they grow and branch up, the pads can reach up to the surface, and you can also get some flowers on these plants as well, which is really nice to see. Now, it's awesome to see this variation in different plants in a fancy goldfish tank, because a lot of people speculate that you can't keep plants with fancies because they will rip them all out. But the past 2 tanks we've just seen show that is not the case, and it can be done. Now, I know we can't in this shot see the fancies, but it looks like the fancies are really happy and healthy. I can't quite remember how big this tank was, or if Etienne told me, but it looks to be around 180 to 240 litres, something like that. Quite understocked. Looks like there's only 3 or 4 fancies, and here we can really see that Bucephalandra growing up the dual bioflow, and I reckon in about a year, 2 years, that is going to cover the entire filter, and it's going to look really, really impressive. Now, this shot just shows us the clarity in the tank, quite good clarity, so obviously the filters are doing their jobs, and looks like it's quite understocked with 3 to 4 fancies in this tank, so that's quite nice to see as well. Simple but effective. The plants are really, really doing their job, keeping that biological load down. And the final picture here, we've got a full shot. Yep, that's 4 fancies in the tank, looking nice and active, really colourful. Also, I like that there's no background on this tank as well. It really creates that clarity, and it's quite a nice sort of setting. I really do like that setting where you're just more focused on the fish and the plants, and also those feature rocks as well. Now, it also looks like there's another filter in the left hand position which I missed. Maybe that's a large sponge filter, which is really good for aeration, removing mechanical debris, and even providing some biological care. I really like this tank. I did slightly prefer the other tank more with the bare bottom, just because of the different variation in plants, and that just took my fancy, but I'm still going to give this one 4.2 out of 5 stars. Well done, Etienne. Absolutely lovely tank. So finally, we've got JP, otherwise known as John Paul Banag, and you may see his tanks all over the Facebook group. He absolutely loves Ranchu. He is addicted to fancy goldfish, even more than me, I'd say. And first up, we are looking at, I believe, his quarantine tank. Now, I know I've already skipped over that, but we can see he uses the All Pond Solutions EFX filters. He's got 2 under this cabinet, and they are packed full of Biohome. Really liking the overfiltration, lots of media, and just look at those fish. Absolutely stunning. Similar to Etienne, he's got that clear backing panel, so you can really focus on the fish. There are no other colours to take your eye away, and this is a really minimalist setup. I believe Feng Shui, people who believe in that Feng Shui, like to have the attention focused on the fish, and you can just see these beautiful, beautiful Ranchu. Now, he is going quite fast, and I would love to see his tanks a little bit more, but you can see he's trying to create a green carpet algae on his tanks. He's got some lovely Ranchu, and the focus is really on those. You can see he's got a Fluval FX6 and another All Pond Solutions canister filter, which I'm sure he's packed with biohome media, filter floss and filter foams to really keep up with that bio load. Now, his tanks may be slightly overstocked for your average hobbyist, but I know for a fact he does water changes, I believe every 2 or 3 days. He changes around 80%, and he power feeds his fish to get them really big. Most of these fish are 5 to 7 inches. They are really big hand-sized fish. Now, I do love these tanks, love the air stones, lots of aeration, lots of water movement. One thing I would think about to potentially make his setup even better is to have the tanks slightly shallower, not quite as deep. Maybe also potentially have his fish outside so they can really benefit from the sun. I do love this minimalist setup, and I am slightly biased towards it, and the fish are just of a lovely quality. Maybe I think about reducing the flow slightly. As we know, the Ranchu are really deep, large-bodied fish, and they aren't very powerful and very strong at swimming. So maybe this is one tip I would say. They look absolutely great as they are, but potentially you could reduce that flow down, and so they aren't exhibiting as much energy and swimming as much as they are, so they've got more time to rest, if that makes sense. But I do love this tank. I am biased towards the bare bottom minimalistic look, so I'm gonna give John Paul the highest rating I've given so far, and that is 4.5 stars. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Rate My Tank, and I hope there will be many more to come. Now, in the next episode, we are finally going to be doing the naming video. Well, what is the naming video, you ask? Well, I've had lots of requests, lots of different people ask me, why don't my fish have names? And I finally listened to you, and I'm going to be naming the fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the fish on the screen in the next video, and you guys in the comments below get to name them. So if we don't get many comments, which normally we don't, unfortunately, I'm also going to be doing it on the Instagram as well, and maybe I'll give it a few weeks and we'll get as many names as possible, name suggestions, and then I will pick my favourite ones or the best ones that I think are most suitable for the fish, and then we can finally name them all. So when I'm talking about a specific fish in a specific video, I can call out the name of the fish, and hopefully all of you guys watching will know exactly which fish I'm talking about. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed Rate My Tank. Episode 3 will be coming very soon. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.